So, begin with El Mariachi then. It's, well, with the first film, so it's the obvious place to start, and let's not just be weird for the sake of it. Rodriguez is Texan, but his parents are Mexican, and this provided him one way to keep costs down in his first film. Shoot in Spanish in Mexico. And indeed, until it came to the attention of Columbia Pictures, the film had actually been intended for the Mexican straight-to-video market. Reynal Martinez's Azul survives an attempt on his life in a jail cell, organised by local narco Moco, Peter Marquardt. Azul escapes, taking with him his guitar case full of guns, and heads to Moco's city with revenge on his mind. Arriving in town at the same time is Carlos Gallardo's Mariachi, seeking work and toting a nearly identical guitar case, though this one being used for its more traditional intended purpose. Oh no, I hope some unlikely guitar case-related mistaken identity mix-up does not occur. Well, you can imagine where it goes from here, and it's not fixing the cable. As he is chased across town by Moco's goons, led by the magnificently moustached Jaime de Hoyos as Bigoton, which in Spanish is just Big Moustache Man. Great character name, that. The unfortunate Mariachi is forced to kill to save his life, before he meets, then falls in love with, Consuelo Gomez's Domino, which eventually brings him face to face with both Moco and tragedy. So, plot-wise, it's hardly setting the world alight. And with a cast with a large number of non-professionals, often townsfolk to help get them on side with an initially unpopular production, it's no great shakes in the acting stakes either. Though, to be fair, both Gallardo and Gomez are plenty likeable. But it's the low budget and somewhat scrappy production that makes it so successful. Is it a masterpiece? No, by no means. But it's a very assured first feature, and it has a very appealing rawness and vibrancy that go a long way to sanding off the rough edges and making its slight plot more exciting than it really has any right to be. Before we move on to its considerably glossier sequel, and obviously Scott will be chiming in here, but I'll just say that perhaps the most interesting thing about El Mariachi is the story of its production, in particular the inventive ways Rodriguez found to not spend money, like replacing a dolly with him holding the camera while sitting in a wheelchair. So if you have the DVD, it's definitely worth looking at the extras. And one final nugget. Rodriguez's minuscule $7,225 spend was actually, somehow, $1,775 under budget. Wowzers.
Yeah, been a long time since I had seen either of these films, possibly getting into the double decades, but I was quite pleasantly surprised to go back to them. It still hold up pretty well. No real complaints with anything you're saying. Yes, it's a amateurish production at a number of levels, particularly some of the acting, but it's just a really fun, inventive watch. Rodriguez, even from this early stage, clearly knows how to capture action and the rhythms of it, and that really helps drive it through. There's never really a dull moment. There's not really enough of a lull in proceedings to let you really focus too much on some of the perfunctory nature, perhaps, on some of the plot elements. It's not winning any awards for originality in any of that regard, but it's certainly just a real masterclass on how you can produce an awful lot with very little. Yeah, it's fun watching the little inventive tricks of how you can save some money here and there, and the reading more about it gives it more of an appreciation afterwards. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting and rewarding film to watch just on that basis for anyone who's got any kind of interest or appreciation of how films are made. This is a real masterclass in watching and seeing how you can make a little stretch a long way.
Yeah, and there's such simple things there too, which is, like, for instance, what do you do when you show your main character getting a coconut but forget to show and pay for it, and you don't want to make it seem like he stole it? Well, what you do is you stick in a very quick bit of voiceover which says, basically, the town gives away free coconuts to people visiting. It's just simple, inventive stuff like that. And it's the film so that, I just like it feels fresh. Yeah. In a lot of ways, and it's just, you can see that it is shot on a budget, and it's clear there aren't many different takes of most things, because there are a few mistakes here and there. Mm-hmm. But I don't want you to think either that it's somehow slapdash or anything like that. It's rough and it's raw, but it's still got a vision. It's still competently put together. Yeah. And it's still entertaining. And I think We'll come on to it, of course, but it's why on this recent rewatch, I think I prefer this to Desperado because it does have that rawness. It feels, I'm going to guess use the word fresher again, but it just feels like it has a wee bit more life to it.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's not so produced.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say it doesn't look like it's shot on a budget, but it does look like it's shot on a budget. It doesn't feel, however, like it's shot on a budget. It feels like it's a full production that's just had to make some economies along the line. And yeah, it's got a bit more urgency to it. Maybe it feels a bit... I think because it is so unpolished in a world where the action films that we tend to wind up seeing. There's a lot of unpolished garbage out there that we're not watching or talking about, but in terms of ones that are actually any good, this would feel very different, certainly.
There's a lot of polished garbage as well, though, Scott.
That's true. It certainly feels a lot different in that regard from other Rodriguez works, because immediately after this, you can start accusing him of having a lot more style than substance. Yeah. Leading all the way up to like some of the really hyper stylized things that he's done, like Sin City and even Battle Angel Alita for that matter, and that one with Sylvester Stallone. Weird. But so in comparison with a lot of his earlier works, this is a very different looking film, but it's certainly no less enjoyable for all of that. Yeah,
it's. We did remark on it a bit in our discussion of Once Upon a Time in Mexico in the other episode, but it is strange to see that he managed to like go downhill in terms, at least of this story, from the beginning. It's like, and you say it doesn't look like it's shot on a budget. Well, or rather, it does look like it's shot on, but yeah, it does, but it doesn't look like it's shot on a $7,000 budget.
No.
I think I actually meant to check this. The only other film I could think that's even approaching this sort of crazy level of budget is maybe Primer, which you can understand because they basically needed a storage space and somebody's garage. Yeah. Whereas this is actually shot, it's shot in Mexico, so presumably the shooting costs are less, but it has gunfire and it's in colour and it's in the middle of a city and stuff. So it's kind of impressive that you got so much out of so little.
Yeah, and in an era where you can't try and slapdash on some really cheap CG effects to cover up muzzle flashes and blood, as terrible as that always looks. Which is
exactly what he did Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
Even with considerably more budget. You just have to go with what you've got on the set.
Yes. It looks all the more authentic for it.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily say Robert Rodriguez is one of those people who really suffers for like having more budget. You sometimes find that some people perform really well with a restricted budget, and when they're basically given free rein, they just really spaff it up the wall, and they have no. Because, I suspect the issue with Sin City in terms of a relative lack of substance is more Frank Miller's problem than Robert Rodriguez's, but it's still he's done a particularly good-looking film there with a very clear visual style.
Oh yeah.
There's other people they're just like they've got a budget and like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, and just made an absolute turd of a film.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't accuse him of that. Yeah, it's a promising start, and you see this, and you can see why. I almost wonder why he's not bigger. But I'm going to blame the 3 Spy Kids films and then Shark Boy versus Lava Girl, because that was a weird detour. I know they did it for his own kids, but that was odd.
Yes.
Even, you've got things like the Machete films, which Machete's 1.25 of a good film, the 2 Machete films together.
Yeah.
Which is quite impressive given that the whole thing at all came out of a spoof trailer.
Yeah. Still not quite got around to watching Hobo with a Shotgun, but I'll get to it at some point.
So he's definitely got some sort of inventiveness there. Actually, which is why when we get to his more recent stuff, perhaps Battle Angel Alita becomes all the more disappointing.
Yeah.
Again, though, I suspect that it's less Rodriguez's fault because he handles the action in that well. It seems I think the script is the lacking thing there.
Yeah, I think the boy needs a good editor.
That could help too.
Or perhaps someone just to slap him upside the head when he gets a stupid idea and run with it. But for style over substance, you can't really claim that you don't see where the money's gone. He always seems to put pretty much every dollar up on the screen. It's just whether that's been in service of a good idea or not seems to be his occasional problem. I know. I'll just to clear it up, I did quite like Sin City. Substance, Style Over Substance, I know was levelled at it quite a lot, but not for me. I thought Sin City was actually pretty good, and even its follow-up was.
I thought they were fairly even in terms of how much I enjoyed both the first and second Sin City. I mean, you certainly can say Swayze's film because Spy Kids 3D with not one but many, or at least two Sylvester Stallones, that's clearly the best of things.
Yes.
Sylvester Stallone sort of making fun of himself in multiple versions of him. Okay.